Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, hopefully you're doing well. You are ready for some Computer America, and hey, we're so happy that you could join us, and welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have a full segment of computer and technology news. It's been ages since we've been able to do this, and really just, drill into the news wherever our interests take us. That's where it's going to be. And hey, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including today's show notes, past shows, future shows, any articles that we talk about today, any products that we show, any videos that we, kind of show here on the video stream, anything and more, computeramerica.com. That's where you're going to want to go. And hey, stay updated with the show, what it is that we do here and more. Also, you can find us on social media and, of course, places like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify. I just went in and, really made sure that Spotify was up and working. I actually saw it in one of the news stories and was like, hey, make sure Computer America's up on Spotify. And it most certainly is. So if you'd like to check us out there, you can do that as well. But, of course, the only thing you need to remember is computeramerica.com. So all that and more. And hey, why don't we go ahead, jump right into the news. And again, hopefully everything's going well. So today on the program, full segment of computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. So today on the program, I think that the first article that we're going to do was this story that they do this a lot, and it's the initial reaction. It's like, how could they do this? Every single car, what are you talking about? This is going to ruin society as we know it. Our ability/inability to actually, drive over 112 miles per hour. And so this article, the title of it, this from Autoblog, every new Volvo model is every new Volvo model is now electronically limited to 112 miles per hour. And they said that the owners will be able to set additional speed-related restrictions. Obviously, if you have a kid that's going to be using it for the first time, or if you are using it for, let's say, a business, and you want to make sure that your employees don't go over a certain mile per hour, then hey, this is going to be your choice. But of course, 112 miles per hour. To be fair, thinking of all the cars I've driven and all the times that I've gone allegedly over the speed limit, I think the highest that I've ever been was like 90, is what the officer said. So, I haven't even reached 100, I definitely haven't gone over 100 miles an hour, at least not in a car, and 112 miles per hour still seems like a lot of headroom. Obviously, Volvo European highways are very, very well known for things like the Autobahn, where cars get to go much, much faster, and 100 miles per hour is, kind of cruising distance, because if you're on the Autobahn, you don't want to be going 80 miles an hour. You want to go 100, 110 miles an hour. And so it's a different, over in Europe, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, it's going to affect everyone here who buys a Volvo in the United States. So with that being said, it's not that big a deal. And I just explained all that, and I said that, this is going to be, this at first blush seems like a big deal, but they say that at 112 miles per hour or 180 kilometers per hour, they said that it's pretty much above the speed limit everywhere in the world except Germany, which is known for no speed limits on the Autobahn. And they said that, and by the way, it turns out that running out of gas on the Autobahn is illegal. Like, they'll give you a ticket for running out of gas on the Autobahn. So, fun fact. So they said that Volvo has also announced its cars now come with a care key that allows users to set a lower speed limit. They offer this as an accessory called Red Key, but it's now standard equipment. It's similar to teen driving profiles already offered by many automakers. Parents concerned about their 16-year-old behind the wheel of an XC90, which, hey, maybe don't trust your kid behind the wheels of such a good new car. You can limit it to, say, 65 miles per hour. And they said, looking ahead, Volvo hasn't rolled out packing additional restrictions into cars in order to reduce accidents and fatalities. It cited intoxication and distractions as the two remaining areas of concern, and said it's taking steps to address them, saying that more features will be introduced in future cars. So it seems like speeding, of all things, really at the end of the day, I really hate that phrase, but at the end of the day, what they're getting at is that super excessive speeds, especially those over 100 miles an hour, are not really one of the leading causes of fatalities in cars. Like they said, it was drunk driving, distracted driving, texting while driving, just freak accidents that the driver was not aware of. Things like that, those are much, much, much more serious than someone going 112 miles per hour in a school zone. One is much more common than the other. So they're going to address those, but for now, governor's caps have been a thing for, quite a while now. It's for the past 20 or so years. Cars have been restricted to how fast they can go, and turns out that through some additional reading that I was able to gather before the show here, most cars, the tires are rated to about 112 miles per hour. Anything over 112, your typical consumer tire is not rated for, and it risks some kind of blowout / horrible accident. You don't want to be going 113 miles an hour and have a tire blow. That's going to be very, very bad. Of course, then you can buy performance tires that can go up to like 118 miles per hour. And then, of course, the super high performance for like race cars, NASCAR, F1, Formula One racing, that kind of thing. They go up all the way up to like 186 or 200 miles an hour. So, but those are not anywhere near consumer grade. The point is that most consumer grade tires were only rated for 112. So for cars to, kind of limit that, or at least Volvo to limit that on all their cars, not that big a deal, because they were already limited by the tires. And, not many people were actually out there going that fast. And of course, with the proper equipment going that fast and being quote unquote safe about, 100 plus miles an hour. And by the way, I think that this was also part of legislation somewhere here in the article. I think it talks about that, saying that all new cars sold in the European Union by 2022 have to, it's mandatory to have speed restricted in all cars sold in the European Union. So there's simply a couple years ahead of plan, and hey, this is going to happen to all automakers. Volvo first, because they decided to, do it faster than everyone else, speaking of speed. But this is going to be everyone from BMW to Mercedes to just any other European car that you can think of. Yeah, they're all going to have the same limitation. So aftermarket and, messing with limiters and changing settings behind the hood under, that kind of thing. very much kind of a hobbyist, an extreme situation. But I also think that would be a little illegal, I guess would be to put it nicely. So there you go. Again, at first, every new car getting its speed limited to something serious, but now it looks like, well, it was already limited and it's not that big a deal. So there you go. Now, something that is a big deal. I'm kidding. Actually, there are a couple of very interesting articles here, and one of them was actually kind of like we can get through this one pretty quick. Netflix, you've heard about them. They made it so that inactive accounts. So if you're one of those people that, just has more money than time, maybe you have a Netflix account, maybe it's still $8, $9 a month, and you said, you know what, going through the cancellation and dealing with that, you keep putting it off every single month, and you say, next month I'll do it, and, it just doesn't happen, and years go by. Hey, you're still paying for it. Well, Netflix might just come to your rescue. Oh, forever procrastinators, or for something that we really don't, that we really don't hope for. People who may be deceased and are still paying for it even from the grave. Something that I think every subscription software out there has to deal with are people who pay for the service but don't actually use the service that they're paying for. Netflix is going to start canceling inactive customers' subscriptions. Check that out. Very, very rarely do you see something that is so pro-consumer, because really, if the consumer who's paying for this is not using the service, then Netflix is saying, don't worry, we'll cancel it for you so you don't have to keep paying for it. And then at the same time, it's so anti-business, I guess, because if these people are happily paying for something that they're not using, they are the ideal customer. They are like the gym membership that you never use, but you keep paying for. That is the perfect customer. They cost you nothing to maintain, and they give you money every single month. Netflix, I guess, saw it in their cards to say, you know what? Maybe it's not going to be that much of a financial hit, and in return, the goodwill that they're going to receive from this might just outweigh whatever small amount of money that they're getting from inactive members. Now, the company said that it had started notifying customers who haven't watched anything on the platform in 12 months. So we're not talking like, Netflix's, are you still watching feature where after a couple hours, it's like, hey, are you still watching? No, it's not even a couple days, couple weeks, couple months, 12 months. That's a decent amount of time to be paying for something and never use it. And they said that after 12 months, since they became a subscriber, to check if they wish to keep their membership, the company is also reaching out to those who haven't streamed anything in more than 2 years. Check that out. Saying that, that sinking feeling when you realize, and this is a quote, that sinking feeling when you realize you signed up for something but haven't used it in ages? At Netflix, the last thing we want is people paying for something that they're not using, the company said. End quote. So the unusual move illustrates just how much confidence Netflix has on its loyal customer base. Most companies are happy to withdraw their cut from their members' bank accounts or credit cards for as long as they can, which is what I was saying. Most companies, that's their favorite customer. The customer that demands nothing and pays religiously every single month. That is the best customer you can ask for. And Netflix is saying, you know what? That's not fair to them. And it's right. Really, it really is a pro-consumer move. So they said that Netflix said that these inactive accounts, more popularly known as zombie accounts, only represent a few 100,000 or less than half of 1% of its overall user base. I would say that even beyond that, what's probably more prolific and something that they're going to tackle more aggressively is when people share their accounts with up to like 5 people, which is fair. But then the other side of it, when people share their account, but they don't know it, hacked accounts that are being traded online saying, hey, you can get, here's login credentials, you can use it for whenever, blah, 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 sold on the dark web. That's probably something that they're going to start cracking down on more aggressively. So while that may seem like an anti-consumer move, which I really don't think it is, I think tackling hijacked, hacked accounts is totally within their purview. They're going ahead with this saying, hey, if you haven't used us in 12 months, 2 years, whatever it may be, maybe you should think about canceling. So they said that the streaming service, which had more than 182 million subscribers, not bad, by the end of March, says that it will be easier for those accounts who have been canceled to rejoin the platform should they want to return. Those who rejoin within 10 months will still have their favorite profiles, viewing preferences, and account details. Essentially, for 10 months after you cancel, everything is going to be left alone, and then after that, they'll probably wipe you from everything, and you have to set everything back up. But in the meantime, we hope that this new approach saves people some hard-earned cash. I would say that it's like a double benefit, and whoever thought of this at Netflix either didn't think it out at all or thought it out really, really well. Because all the stuff I said earlier, corporate goodwill, that kind of thing, but something else that, kind of pops into my mind is that Netflix internally uses all of the data of people watching, people streaming, blah, blah, blah. They really don't care about usage numbers, even though they have active subscribers, which they do care about. They also use all the data that they collect internally to bolster their movies, their choices in television shows, what they renew, what they don't renew, blah, blah, blah. What I'm getting at here is that by potentially warning a couple of these 100,000 accounts that, hey, you haven't used this in a while, we're going to cancel the subscription, re-up if you'd like to, a few of them, just a handful, half, less than that. If any number of them come back to Netflix and say, oh yeah, I do have Netflix, I'm still paying for it, let's start watching more Netflix. Maybe getting those couple 100,000 accounts to start watching Netflix is worth it. It's kind of like the ribbon on top of the whole thing. So maybe that. I don't know. I like I said, they either didn't think this out at all or they thought it out very, very well. So there you go. Netflix, if you haven't been using it, hey, they know. They've been checking you too. So, okay. Now, that was article number 2. Article number 3, something that we've been following for a little while now. You may have heard of the company G2A. They are pretty prolific on sites such as Twitch.tv, where people take a lot of sponsors from them. They sponsor a lot of gaming publications and YouTubers and so on and so forth. G2A is very, very prolific in their marketing. And really what their business model is that you can sell unused game keys, which weren't really a thing. Are becoming less of a thing, but people could sell them video games just like you would kind of like a GameStop, and then other people would go in and buy them for a slight discount. Even if you get 5, 10, 15% off of G2A, you aren't paying the full sticker price at, whatever, on Steam, for instance. Now, here's the problem. A number of video games, and this has happened famously for a lot of different video games, but one in particular is the point of this article today. They have a tendency to not really vet their keys. And, the source of those keys, in a lot of cases, I would say actually in a majority of the cases, G2A makes deals with publishers to, give G2A 10,000 keys and sell them to G2A for, let's say, if the game costs $30 or $40, the developer will sell the keys to G2A for $5, because the guaranteed lump sum at the moment is kind of worth the trade-off of, potentially, it is worth the trade-off of the marketing that would go on within G2A, having more people, word-of-mouth spread, that kind of thing. So that's where a majority of the keys would come from. But then there's another side where sometimes people would hack keys. They would obtain them illegally And then, of course, G2A would not do their due diligence, and yeah, G2A would sell the keys just like they would any other key. The people would sell them. They would sell them for pennies on the dollar because they knew that they were illegitimately gotten. And G2A, even when contacted by the developer themselves, saying that this block of keys is, not legit, they were stolen from us, they would refuse to take it down, and they would still want to make their money back off of the keys that were, then sold to them. That is where we come into this article here from Ars Technica. So, that whole controversy has worked its way through the courts, and here we go, saying that in a blog post yesterday, G2A confirmed that 200 copies of Factorio, which is a pretty popular game, I would say that they're popular. They said that sold on G2A in early 2016 were indeed obtained illegitimately. They said that they said that G2A says it will pay Factorio, the developer Woobe, 10 times the bank-initiated refund costs incurred for those fraudulent purchases, or about roughly $40,000, which you would think after 4 years, battling through the legal system, $40,000 isn't the best payout, but especially not the best payout for them admitting that they were straight up wrong. Now, G2A has a long history of alleged fraud, and as I said before, developers would go to them. People with hacked Steam accounts would then sell the Steam accounts to G2A with the purchased goods, things like that. The issue of stolen key reselling started gaining prominence in about 2016. TinyBuild, which is an independent game developer, lost about $450,000 in sales. And obviously people would buy through G2A for the price savings, but then none of that money would go directly back to the developer because, hey, G2A doesn't have that kind of deal. They paid for the keys at some point, and the developer can go do whatever the developer wants to do. It's not going to get a cut of the money. And so they said that websites like G2A, and G2A is just the most prominent, there are many others out there, but, and this is a quote, are facilitating a fraud-fueled economy where key resellers are being hit with tons of stolen credit card transactions, and these websites are now growing rapidly due to low pricing of game keys. That was another part that I haven't even mentioned. Another way to kind of launder money was to buy, let's say, $10,000 worth of video game keys, and then you would sell those video game keys at like a 10% loss to G2A, who would then sell them at like a 5% loss, thereby earning, $2 or $3 per key purchase, but, over bulk sales, that makes your money back. The person with the credit card, the stolen credit card, would walk away with 90% of the funds that they were supposed to, and G2A would sell the keys just like anyone else, and then of course the people whose credit cards were stolen would have to fight it out with G2A or through their credit card company to get a refund and get everything facilitated. Long story short, ladies and gentlemen, it was a huge mess, and it was, it was very popular. It was, I would say that the two most popular ways to launder money back in 2016, and maybe 2017 as well, was to sell keys like this, and then the other one was to buy and sell Counter-Strike Global Offensive weapon skins. That was a very, very prominent way to launder money as well. So there you go. And so to wrap this whole thing up, Woobe also owned up to its own role in the fraudulent sales, saying that the direct sales through its site in 2016 were less secure than those on other platforms. They switched to using Humble Store widget for its direct sales and started restricting its once prolific key giveaways. And they said that sales on G2A stopped completely. So essentially, they were to blame because, or at least they are taking their part of the blame because they were not using a secure method to restrict key access. In the end, contacting G2A is treating a symptom of people stealing keys. The best way to combat that is to cut it at the source, i.e., better sales practices, such as through Humble Bundle. So everyone, the publisher's happy with the results. G2A still continues to operate, so take that as you will. But yeah, this is a pretty prolific part of the late 2010s video game selling kind of thing. It's definitely fallen out of favor now, but hey, it still exists. So, story number 3, story number 4. Count them, 4. Story number 4, we're going to talk about the Snyder Cut. And I did not say Spider Cut, I said Snyder Cut. And for those of you who don't know, this was the director of, Justice League. Zack Snyder, there is a long-rumored alternative director's cut of Justice League. And I'll admit, I did not see Justice League in the movie theater. I didn't. I'm with about 96% of the rest of the American population. It didn't do too well. Like, it did okay, but for something that, the Justice League was supposed to be DC's answer to the Avengers, from Marvel. And of course, Marvel, they release even like its own standalone Doctor Strange or Black Panther or something like that. And, suddenly they're just printing money hand over fist. Justice League just didn't capture that. They had a lot of great characters with Cyborg, The Flash. They had Aquaman, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, of course, taking front and center here in the promotional picture. They had all the characters. Everything was set up. Didn't go well. So they said that, and a lot had to do with kind of the pacing. There were a lot of critiques about how the film was actually structured, not just about the characters, the acting, or anything like that. It was just a bad film. Now, after years of fan demands and then months of rumors and teases, the news is official. This was just released yesterday. The 2017 DC comic film Justice League is returning as a director's cut in 2021, and the whole campaign will revolve around its original director, Zack Snyder. And they're saying that they are overhauling and stretching the story and runtime to a whopping 4-hour version. Now, I've heard a couple of different things. HBO Max, which it will premiere on HBO Max and won't be in theaters, obviously. But I've heard a couple different rumors. One, they're going to release one behemoth of a 4-hour film, which, hey, people will probably watch it. Maybe with some potty breaks in there, but 4 hours, they'll probably do it. The other one is a potential 4-episode miniseries where they play the entire thing, but with mixed up pacing, scenes edited. I think there's even going to be, there's also digital effects and CGI. Like, it's not just like a recut. There's actual new scenes, new effects, new production going into the film altogether. So they confirmed it by shamelessly employing the often used hashtag release the Snyder Cut hashtag. And DC fans have used for years. The original film hit theaters in November 2017. And they said that after its production was halted and overhauled by interim director Joss Whedon, who took over when Snyder left the production due to a family tragedy. Since then, fans have wondered what shape the film might have taken if it were completed by the original director. Well, now we're going to know. They confirmed that the Snyder's original version was indeed quite different. His plans for a 4-hour movie were unsurprisingly squashed by Warner Brothers, and his original rough cut, submitted in January 2017, and close to the 2.5-hour range, was rejected as well. So he tried to finish the movie as he saw fit, but of course family tragedy was one thing, and then, hey, Joss Whedon stepped in to direct the new film and put his touch on the production and script. So they said that, to clarify their stance on this, we're still not sure what the so-called Legion of Fans is smoking. And they said that, as they wrote in November 2017, Whedon's touch might have been the only saving grace of the otherwise messy film. saying, quote, "I feel bad pointing out certain issues in the film as a comparison, but in some parts of the film, you can clearly see Stepin director Joss Whedon applying his non-crappy touch. Conversations between Affleck and Godot toward the film's end are among the most touching for either character since the actor started out at DC. And they, like some of the other good dialogue scenes, have all the hallmarks of a Whedon production. In terms of camera angle, distance, and conversational cadence, conversely, the film's all over the map, jumping between scenes. Madness reeks of Snyder's insipid filmmaking approach." So, that was a quote from the author of this article about the 2017, saying that, even though fans have been really hoping for the Snyder release, saying that, hey, it's got to be better. Like that seems to be the underlying sentiment to these demands, is that it had so much potential, so much promise. Obviously, it lacked the buildup that the Marvel Universe did with the Avengers, where, you had an Iron Man movie, you had a Hulk movie, you had, every one of the individual characters had a movie, and then seeing them all on screen together, finally was, seeing Captain America and Iron Man fighting each other was, just amazing. But then when it came to to Justice League, seeing Batman and Superman on screen together, that's something. But then suddenly you have Aquaman out of nowhere with Cyborg just kind of thrown in, and the Flash, who never actually got his own movie. Seeing all these characters just kind of thrown up on the screen was kind of like, whatever. So they're saying it has to be better than what we got, but they're saying to be cautiously optimistic, but caution that, hey, it might not actually be better. It might actually be a 4-hour slog to get through this thing. So we'll certainly have to wait and see. So for now, Snyder and his crew are only beginning talks with post-production houses to figure out how to stitch together the unshot and unfinished content needed to alter and expand the theatrical version. Conversations with the original cast began in April to figure out if and how they may need to participate in race suits in various scenes, meaning that, we may all see more Batfleck, which I guess is Ben Affleck as Batman. And there you go. So, Snyder Cut. Justice League is going to be getting a new release on HBO Max, assuming everything goes well, in 2021. That's pretty exciting. I know that there's a lot of people that had a lot of hope for Justice League. I think that the rivalry among comic book fans between DC and Marvel is so profound that, for at least when it comes to the movies, one to just blow the other one completely out of the water, unforgivable. Now, to really keep you on your toes here, really try to switch it up. TweakTown, a publication that we have never actually covered, but hey, today is the day. TweakTown, technology and gaming content trusted in North America and globally since 1999. Where have you been all my life? TweakTown, article here, Sabrent, they make hard drives, and check this one out. They unveiled the world's first 8 terabyte NVMe M.2 SSD with up to 3.4 gigabytes per second reads. So I will preface this by saying that my only experience with NVMe M.2 SSDs comes from Samsung. Samsung and their SSDs, they're very, very, they're very nice. I have one. I'm very happy with it. Not paid to say that. Happy to say that, I just needed one, and hey, it fit the bill. So, and I wanted to pull out some of the other specs here, but the most I've ever seen, and if you've never seen the difference between an NVMe M.2 and a traditional solid-state drive, a traditional solid-state drive would still have that 2.5, 3.5 inch form factor. It was like a little, a little 2.5 inch square box that you would put into your computer, hook up, there you go. It looked a lot like a traditional hard drive. The M.2s look closer to a stick of RAM. If you're watching the video portion, you can see a stick here. You simply push it into your motherboard and call it a day. There's no cables, there's no nothing. It just embeds itself right there. It's super easy, and honestly, the future of memory storage, at least for consumers. They're incredibly fast and so cool in their form factor. But like I said, the only thing I had seen would be a 2 terabyte, and even that would run you closer to $400, which, 2 terabytes, $400 back in the day, that might have gotten you something. But, you're looking at about $2 a gig, I think, of that is, let's see, $2 per gig, I think. Anyways, which is pretty expensive, because nowadays you're looking at traditional hard drives, which are spinning platter drives. They run you about 4 to 5 to 6 cents a gig. And then you're looking at traditional SSDs, which are going to run you, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20 cents. They've come down drastically over the past couple of years, and I haven't really looked into it. But it's like 20 cents, 25 cents, super cheap. And then, of course, something that comes out that's like 8 times more expensive. But there's a good reason, again, the form factor, the storage capacity, and then, of course, the read-write speeds, which the ability for your operating system to put information on your hard drive, or the ability for your operating system to pull information off of your hard drive. That's read-write speed. And that's that's why if you look at hard drives, sometimes it's like, oh, they're the same storage size, but this one costs $100 more than that one. What gives? This sometimes it's not just the best deal. Sometimes it's super slow, and you're getting read-write speeds of, I just had to look up the Samsung EVO 970 EVO SSD. It comes in 1 terabyte, and it has read-write speeds of about, 550 megabits per second. So 550, 520 megabytes per second, respectively. Pretty darn good. Not bad for a 1 terabyte drive. But those read-write speeds wouldn't be good enough if you could store 8 times the capacity of these things. So check this one out. Sabrent, their Rocket 8 Q, their Rocket Q 8 terabyte M.2 2280 is their new M.2 PCIe 3.0 SSD that comes in a new 8 terabyte capacity, joining its siblings at 500 gig, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte. Now we're up to 8 terabyte. Hey, everything doubles. You gotta love it. Inside, they pack the 3D QLC NAND flash memory, so you're looking at 3.4 gigabytes per second read and 3 gigs writes. So where one of its competitors was doing about 500 megabytes, this thing is looking at about 6 to 7 times the speed. I would say about 6 times the speed reading and 6 times the speed writing. That is really incredible that Sabrent was able to do this. They said that they're tapping the Physon's E12S controller, but the company hasn't quite detailed out the drive in terms of random 4K read writes, but we should expect some stellar specs and speeds from the 8 terabyte drive. So you can see that here, and here at the bottom of the article, they have a number of more specs here. Overall, this thing just looks incredibly fast, and again, I've never seen an M.2 or at least an NVMe with 8 terabytes of storage. It's new, it's shiny, I want it, I'm drooling over it. In 2 years, it's going to be like, oh, every consumer should have one of these. In 5 years, it's going to be, well, that's a good entry point. And in another 10 years, it's going to be like, this thing's garbage. Who needs that thing? But for now, it's shiny, it's new, and I want it. So there you go. Sabrent unveils the first 8 terabyte NVMe. And by the way, just to let you know, when it comes to, actual solid state drives, that's not even the fastest it goes. I'm sorry, not fastest, the largest the storage goes. I'm pretty sure it was like Samsung or Seagate, one of these other SSD manufacturers. They made an SSD, a solid state drive, that held 128 terabytes of information. Like 128 terabytes. So it was by far, no one was ever going to really use it. It ran into the same problem that these things that traditional hard drives currently do when it comes to those large amount of storage. The read-write speeds, the actual effectiveness of these drives really does lack. Because if you need to access any of the information, but you need to pull off, let's say you actually have an application that needs 128 terabytes of storage. Let's say you need to pull down 20 terabytes at any given time. It's going to take you days, if not weeks, to be able to pull that much information. And then let's say you have another application that actually needs to write to that much memory, at least that much storage. You're looking at days, if not weeks, of writing the information to that hard drive. So pushing the boundaries of what's possible, perfect. I love to see it. But what's feasible, I think that what Sabrent here has is totally feasible. In fact, this is one of the best M.2s I've ever seen, where you're looking at 4 times the storage, in some cases 4 or 8 times the storage, and you still have 6 times the read-write speeds. That keeps everything just in about the same line. Now, the last thing I'm going to point out here about this hard drive, and then we'll move on. The biggest thing is that, hey, you may notice, Ben, what's the price? How much will this thing cost? Just so you know, they don't put that. If of course you want to learn more, you can contact the company and you can ask for it. If I were to give my educated opinion, looking at one of their competitors, again, the Samsung 970 EVO, 1 terabyte comes in at just under $200. 2 terabytes would therefore be doubling it and adding a little bit more for the form factor. So let's say it's going to be about $450 for the 2 terabyte, and 8 terabyte, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of, if I were to guess, $2,500 to $3,000. That's probably what this singular hard drive is going to cost you. And of course, it's from a company that I honestly know nothing about. And even on top of that, further, it's proprietary. So I think $3,000 would be a conservative estimate for this 8 terabyte drive. Now, if you want 8 terabytes of storage, go ahead, check it out. Check out a traditional hard drive in HDD, and you'll get 8 terabytes for like $150, if not less. 120 at the price. Of course, the speeds won't be there, the form factor won't be there, but you'll definitely get all the storage that you ever need. Yeah, it's not competitive for most people, but it's still cool to see. It's cool. I promise it's very, very neat. So there you go, Sabrent, good job, blah, blah, blah. Now, story number 5, story number 6. Let's go ahead and, let's see, we have so many other things to talk about. This is a good one to keep in mind, and I like to get up on a soapbox every now and again. When I find something that I'm passionate about and that I can really speak to, I enjoy that whole process. Now, I will say, one of the things that I like to get up on my soapbox about is social media and bots. They are prolific. They are ever constant, and they are changing their message. It's not like you have a singular bot out there or a singular person controlling these bots and they have one message and they're saying it in one way. No. What we've seen through Russia and their misinformation campaigns, what we've seen through China and their misinformation campaigns, they don't really care about spreading a singular message. It's not as easy as to say, oh, look, there's a pro-Russian bot. They are saying, yay Putin. No. What they're doing instead is these bots' missions are to spread misinformation. It is to promote It is to promote chaos on social media. If these bots can get people to say, coronavirus is bad and we should do what we can to prevent the spread of coronavirus, or at least, the speed of the spread, that's great. But then if the bots can kind of can get half the country, and really, I honestly don't think that half the country is against the other half of the country. I think it's a very, very small amount of people being fueled by bots. But yeah, if they can get a number of people to say, this isn't the truth, this is an alternate truth, or these are not the facts. If these bot campaigns can get people to spread misinformation, completely break down the discourse, and get people to argue with one another, that is as good, if not better, than a singular message from a singular source. So, this article from NPR saying that researchers say that nearly half of accounts tweeting about coronavirus are likely bots. And going back for a number of years, like really almost a decade at this point, a number of years, be it the 2016 national election, and of course the disinformation campaign put on by Russia, and everything that happened with Trump. Coronavirus is just the latest. There was everything from natural disasters to the to the woes of the stock market. These bots will take any highly contentious, highly discussed topic, and they will spread false information as far as they can. And and another good one is of course, there's a lot of tension between African Americans and police, and you can bet that a number of those Twitter debates were fueled by Twitter bots that will promote one message over another. And that's like the worst thing. They don't even have to put the message out themselves. They just have to find one person speaking not truthfully, and promote that one message, and hey, it's just as effective. So researchers culled through more than 200 million tweets discussing the virus since January, and found that about 45% were sent by accounts that behave more like computerized robots than humans. It is too early to say conclusively which individuals or groups are behind the bot accounts, but researchers researchers say that the tweets appeared aimed at sowing division in America, which is something that we have been discussing ever since 2016, especially from, Russia. They have a quote here: we do know that it looks like it's a propaganda machine, and it definitely matches the Russian and Chinese playbooks, but it would take a tremendous amount of resources to substantiate that. And so what they're saying is, to actually track down these bots and to conclusively say it's Russia and or it's China is a bit too hard, but to say that they are bots and this is propaganda and they are spreading division and misinformation, that's definitely happening. That's not up for discussion. So researchers identified more than 100 false narratives about COVID-19 that are proliferating on Twitter by accounts controlled by bots. Among the misinformation disseminated by bots, tweeted conspiracy theories about hospitals being filled with mannequins, or tweets that connected the spread of the coronavirus to 5G wireless towers, a notion that is patently untrue. Ladies and gentlemen, we covered the 5G tower coronavirus connection. Don't send me emails about that. I know that there a lot of discussion was generated about that. I don't care. 5G does not cause coronavirus. So there you go. They said that such bogus ideas on the internet have caused real-world harm. In England, dozens of towers have been set on fire, as we mentioned. And, of course, they believe to have been fueled by false conspiracy theories linked to the rollout of 5G. And, quote, we're seeing up to 2 times as much bot account activity as we'd predicted based on previous natural disasters, crises, and elections. So the so-called bot hunter tool, the researchers flagged accounts that tweeted more than is humanly possible or claimed to be in multiple countries within a few hours period. So this is something that that you may see online saying that, oh, I'm a paramedic from Chicago, and here are my experiences, and then they go off and start spouting some complete bullcrap. And then, a couple hours later, they'll join another Twitter thread and they'll go, being here from the UK, my whole life, I'll do this, and this. Just completely fake narratives that just incite whatever conversation that they're a part of. Now, they said that when we see a whole bunch of tweets at the same time or back to back, it's like they're timed. We also look for use of the same exact hashtag or messaging that appears to be copy and pasted from one bot to the next. So, and of course, there's, I feel like what they're getting at is really kind of the surface level of what these bots do. Because, that's just a number of bots that are, spreading one sentence, one hashtag, one message, that kind of thing. There are a number of bots that do nothing more than like, retweet, follow, promote things, get them trending so that people who are not part of the botnet see these messages, see how much activity that they have, and say, wow, look at this tweet. It has 10,000 likes. It must be true, or it must be, it must be accurate to some extent, even though completely not. Twitter says its automated systems have challenged 1.5 million accounts that were targeting discussions about COVID-19 with malicious or manipulative behavior. So, Twitter, I've mentioned it before, every time that they come out, like Twitter is doing better than Facebook. Let's put it that way. Twitter has taken down entire botnets that have ranged from like 5 million, 10 million. The amount of bots that Twitter has taken down is substantial. It's not enough, and Twitter knows that, but they do take a better stance against bot activity than other social media. Facebook, on the other hand, they are downright pathetic. When they release stories and pressers saying, oh, we just took down 100 fake pages on Facebook and we took down like 50 accounts. Because let's face it, Facebook, they have like over 2 billion active accounts. Not all of those are legitimate, and they don't even try to weed them out. So there you go. Now, Reuters reported in March that Russian media have recently deployed a widespread disinformation campaign against the West to worsen the impact of the coronavirus to create panic and distrust. And they said that efforts to fight back against the spread of false information come just as the federal government and election security experts keep a watchful eye on the November election. Because whatever's happening with, what's happening with COVID and the misinformation that's happening here, that's like an opportunity that they're seizing on. The election in 2020 later this year, that's a planned event. That is 100% going to happen. The November election in this country, where coronavirus came up, and don't get me wrong, over the past couple of months, they may have refined their technique. They're doing their best to capitalize on a kind of like a surprise. When it's going to be a planned event like the election, it's going to be so much worse. It's going to be so much worse because they're going to know exactly when to say stuff. There will be televised debates. There will be, elections happening in different parts of the country. They will know exactly when to spread misinformation to get the biggest impact. So what happens later this year is going to be much worse than what we're seeing now, but what we're seeing now is already pretty darn bad. So the article ends with this one saying that she offers some advice. Look out for subtle typos, for tweets being sent out by very quickly, or profile images and usernames that appear suspicious. Even if someone appears to be from your community, if you don't know them personally, take a closer look and always go to authoritative or trusted sources for information. Just be very vigilant. I've had people very close to me who will point out that, I heard this on Facebook, and then you say, well, who did it come from on Facebook? And they go, oh, I don't know, but here's what they said. They remember the message, but they don't remember the source. That is a huge problem and something that you can really emphasize and say, if you want to stop this, this is a good place to start. So, disinformation, misinformation, fake news, it's going to be getting worse. And hey, you can do your part to stop it. Follow Computer America. So, let's go ahead, continue on here. Story number 6, story number 7. We have time for like one more story, and I really want to make it a good one. No, not okay. Why don't we just go ahead and end it on some hardware? I've been a fan of Razer's. Really, I think like most people who have used some of Razer's products, they probably came into it through their mice and keyboard. I was a huge fan of my Razer Naga up until it stopped working, and I used that thing very, very early on in my World of Warcraft career, and I didn't. Well, I'm currently using the Razer Death Adder, but I never replaced it with a Razer Naga. Anyways, I like their peripherals. I think Razer and their peripherals a little pricier than others, but at the same time, they do it very, very well. Their laptops, I don't have as much experience with, but hey, they keep pushing it. And I gotta give them kudos. They didn't just, kind of do a singular Razer Blade Pro and said, wow, that really didn't work out that well for us. No, they keep trying, and I can respect that. Check this one out, the Razer Blade Pro. And for those of you who don't know, Razer is the, of course, peripheral gaming company. They have a laptop. The line of laptops is called the Blade and the Blade Pro. So Razer Blade Pro 17 has a 300 hertz display option. You heard that right. Go out there and look at the monitors that you can buy today. Most of them are going to be 60 hertz. A number of them will be 75 hertz. A few of them will be 100 hertz if you're looking at something larger and more expensive. 144 hertz for a traditional 1080p display resolution. Very, 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 very few are going to run you up to 240 hertz. Is about the highest that I've seen. 400 hertz, or I keep saying hertz. People may know better as a refresh rate. A 300 hertz refresh rate monitor and built into a laptop. That's something that I haven't even seen before. So it's pretty darn cool. Now, Razer announced that the 2020 version of the Blade Pro 17, by the way, denoting that is a 17-inch laptop. So this thing is a big, big, big honking laptop. There's a 4K 120 hertz touch display option for creative professionals. So if you choose to use it as kind of like a drawing tablet, it has a 4K 120 hertz touch screen as well. But Razer has upgraded the gaming focus option to a 300 hertz 1080p panel. Razer said that the 4K screen will cover 100% of the Adobe RGB space, so very, very color accurate. And 1080p display comes with a glare reducing matte finish. So, yeah, that's always good. Not many people really need, glare, because I think if you're buying this laptop, which I think, looking through the numbers here, yeah, it's probably going to run you about $4,000. You're probably going to be in a basement somewhere, dwelling in your natural habitat. They said that the specs don't look too different from last year's Blade, but the new model has been bumped up to the newest generation of mobile processors from Intel and GPUs from NVIDIA. Razer says that they'll make the new Blade faster than its predecessor, both in gaming and creative work. It looks like you get the 300 Hz screen with the NVIDIA RTX 2070 Max-Q or RTX 2080 Super Max-Q for about $3,200 or $2,600 for the 2070. $3,200, crazy. The gaming rigs comes with about 500 gig SSD upgradable up to 2 terabytes. You're definitely going to want that. And the and the creator version comes with 1 terabyte upgradable to 2 as well. Yeah, so let's see. The processor, you're looking at 8-core, 2.3 gigahertz Intel Core i7 10875H processor. The 10875H, I think that's like the laptop focused one, so there's a little bit more battery life, but it can be boosted all the way up to 5.1 gigahertz and about 16 gigs of dual channel RAM. Really wish that was bumped up to 32, if not 64, for something that you're paying probably close to $4,000 for. So they had a couple different tweaks on the model, including the keyboard and some of the other stuff, but 6-pound keyboard. It's not the most portable laptop, but this kind of performance in a laptop is very impressive. And hey, I love the look of it. So everyone, that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. If you want to find out more, computeramerica.com. Find us on social media, find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter, and hey, I just made sure of it today. Find us on Spotify if you like to listen to the show there as well. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.